Hey y'all, Professor Jones here again. Hope you're well. So, I'm going to explain in this lesson something called the grand staff. What makes this grand? So, the lighting here is a little funny, but if you can see, I actually have a double bar that extends from the top all the way down. And then I have these little sort of, um, what do you call it? Parenthesis legs right there on the top. There happens to be two dots. So, kind of like everything you see in the top, you're going to see in the bottom for the main structure of it, right? So, we're going to go through the different things that you may see on a grand staff. First of all, let's start with the double bar. That double bar lets us know that that is where the song kind of starts. Now, sometimes there are notes before the double bar, and that may be called a pickup. You know what I mean? 3, 4, 1. That's the downbeat of the double bar. So you may find notes before it, but it's important to know where the first downbeat hits. Now, I don't know if you can see this well enough, but I have a treble clef here, and it's a treble clef on the top. It circles around the G note. It's also called a G clef, and I also have what we call the bass clef or F clef, because the little circle of it, the top, goes around the F in the bass clef. Okay, so this is a treble clef, this is a bass clef, and as I said, it mirrors. So you're reading this at the same time. Okay, the next thing we see on the staff are these guys here, flats. It could have been sharps, or it could have been nothing. So we will call that our key signature. So we will go through all our key signatures at some point. There are many, and that's how you notate what key you're playing in. For you singers, vocalists, you sometimes have to pick your key, right? And then we see something called measures. A measure is the same thing as a bar. Measure. And that gives us sort of like a block of time. That's how we can block a time. So really, there are 4 measures in this progression. And we call this, when it's a whole situation of chords moving, that's a progression, right? So these are measures or bars. Something else that I see here is the dot. The dot there with the double bar, if you see that, that's called a repeat sign. So we know we're going to repeat that part. We're going to have to come back. And I also see that right here. So that's a repeat. So it means you're going to go from here to here maybe once or several times, depending on what the person that wrote it wants you to do. Okay? The next thing you're going to see is something here with a number situation. I see a 3-4, and all of a sudden it changes here to 5-4. Wow. It could have went to 6-8 right here. You know what I'm saying? This is called time signature. So we got our time signature. And we will talk a little later on another video about the time signature. We'll go in depth with that. But I just want you to know this is where it sits. After the key signature, then comes the time signature. So we got the repeat sign, key signature, time signature. We did measures or bars. So we got those 3. Now, the next thing that I see here is maybe these lines. And these lines are what divide the measures. So that's important. I also see this double bar here at the end, but it doesn't have dots. Does that mean we repeat? No, that means this is the end. So we have our double bar. Put that over here. Double bar means it's the end of something. It could be the end of the phrase, the end of a section, or it could be the end of a song. If it's at the end of the song, many times you might see this thing here. What is that called? That is called a fermata. And that just means you're gonna sustain, hold the note out forever. No, until you're cued off. Okay? So that will sustain. The other thing that I see here, so we got our fermata. Okay, that's now, and we did measures, we did double bar. Now, this clef, we talked about the clef. So this is a treble clef and the bass clef. So we got that. Chords. Hey, how about that? Those are what are going to give us our harmony. And we will go into depth with that in a later video, but it's important to see how the chords progress. And so we call that a progression, right? Let me see if this piano's on. No, of course not. But if you want to hear the progression, it would sound kind of like A minor. So A minor to G to A minor to G major to F major into F major. Now, the reason why we need these numbers is because it tells us how we're going to move, and it's called the time signature. It's also called the meter, right? So we're going to think of this for now as 3 beats. So it would be like 1, 2, 3, and then it'll be 1, 2, 3. We don't have to write it again because we didn't change it, but here we changed it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that top note tells us how many quarter notes, because I see a quarter on the bottom, are going to be in this bar. And then this one, we don't even know because we're going to hold it out. So now that will kind of sound like 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, off. So that's really important to know the time signature because it gives us how the time moves. What is something else we see on the grand staff that I don't have written in here? Well, now I kind of do actually, because I have these. What is that called? You might have saw a previous video or talked to me about it before. I don't know. 1, 2, 3. What are these things? These are notes, right? And so we have notes on our grand staff. So it's just important to be able to recognize when you see measures, when you see chords, when you see the clef, because it's going to tell you where in your register you're going to play. Some instruments read in that clef, some read in this clef. There's another clef that goes here called alto, but we're not going to notate that. Sometimes we see, we see the amount, the time signature, how fast we're going to move, how many beats are in each bar, and what key we're in, the key signature. The bars are divided by lines. You know, all of these are bars. We see the fermata telling us that we're going to do a pause or we're going to sustain right there. The double bar tells us it's the end of the phrase or the section. And then these dots, along with the double bar, tells us we're going to repeat. And you want to have sort of like the grand look, so you want to have those little parenthesis legs on it. All right, guys, this was the end of my grand staff lecture. Bye.